Hi guys! In this video we're going to look at AR verbs and how to use them and how to conjugate that and what that all means. So when you're done watching this video, you'll be able to conjugate any regular AR verb in the present tense. So a couple things we want to remember. One, what is a verb? Verb is an action word. So jump, swim, run, dance, study. Two, in Spanish we divide our verbs into three categories. AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs. So for example, we've learned ser and tener. Those are both ER verbs. So now we're going to look at AR verbs. The third thing we want to remember is conjugation. What does it mean to conjugate a verb? Well, if we look here on the screen, all Spanish verbs change their ending according to the... So what is the thing that causes us to change our ending? It's going to be the subject. So depending on who's performing the action. So just like with ser and tener, we conjugated them, right? Yo soy, tú eres, él es, yo tengo, tú tienes, él tiene. But in those cases, we changed the whole thing, the whole verb. Ser became soy, the whole shebang. In this case, and so it's actually going to get easier, we're going to apply rules that only affect the ending of a verb for all AR verbs, which is actually pretty cool. So the ones we're going to look at for an example are hablar, to speak, and mirar, to look, okay, or to watch. So we have an infinitive here, hablar, right? We know our infinitive is the most basic form of the verb, and we know that our infinitive means to do something, right? In this case, to speak. So within our infinitive, we have what we call the stem. And so when you work with any verb in Spanish, you can take off the AR at the end. Whatever is left is what your stem is. So in this case, it's HABL, habl. And then what we're going to do next, I'm going to go ahead and click through. If you're in Blackboard, I'm on slide 22 of the interactive chalkboard, okay? So if we click through, we can see that we have different endings. So instead of conjugating, excuse me, instead of changing the whole verb like we did before, we're just going to change the ending. And we're going to keep that stem. That stem stays intact, okay? So yo hablo, tú hablas, usted, él o ella habla, etc. Okay? Hablamos, habláis with an accent, and hablan. So when we're looking at these, what we're going to do is we're going to use those endings for every AR verb. And the only thing we have to worry about is who is performing the action. Who is our subject? Okay? I'll give you some examples here in a second. Let's see what this looks like with mirar. The next slide. So, miro, miras, mira, miramos, miráis, miran. So we can see that we've used the exact same endings, but we obviously have a different stem because we're working with a different verb. The verb is mirar. We remove the AR, and we have the MIR intact. And to that MIR, we just add different endings. So if I want to say, I look, then I would say, yo miro. If I want to say, they look, then I would say, ellos miran, because that's the ending I have to use with ellos. If I say, you look, I would say, tú miras, because as is the ending I have to use with tú. Okay? So let's take a look at how can we apply these rules in general. So I'm going to show you guys a video. I want you to watch this. This is available on my YouTube channel, okay? These are 3 steps to conjugate a verb. Hablar is the easiest one to practice with because it's the most common one we might use because we speak Spanish, right? And it's always regular. So I'm gonna watch the video go through once, and then we'll come back and have comments about it. And that's it. Okay. So let's watch that video again, and I'll pause it this time and explain it piece by piece, okay? There we go. So there are only 3 steps to conjugating a verb. Now, we're going to use these 3 steps now. We're going to use them in the future. We're going to use them with regular, irregular, AR, ER, IR. We're going to use them when we learn past tense. So these 3 steps are really fundamental for the rest of your Spanish life, okay? So the very first step that you always perform is to get to the stem, okay? You're going to get to the root of the verb. So we have the hablar. We're working with just AR verbs, right? So I'm going to remove that ending. It's gone. And that leaves me with HABL, habl. That's the only thing I have left. Oh, doesn't want to go. There we go. So in this case, it says identify who is verbing. So what I mean by that is identify who is performing the action. Am I speaking? Are you speaking? Is he speaking? Are they speaking? Who speaks? Okay? In this case, we're talking about that girl. So we're going to say she speaks. So we know out of our whole chart of pronouns or people who can perform actions that we're going to be talking about ella, right? Talking about she. So that's step 2. Identify who is verbing. So in this situation, we're going to add the correct verb ending to the stem. Now, before those drop in again, how do you know what the correct verb endings are? Well, we saw on our chalkboard, these verb endings. O, as, a, almost, ais, an. Okay? If you want to see those a little more clearly, you can take a look at that. So for AR verbs, these are the endings you use for any regular AR verbs. So you'll notice in chapter 3 we have tons of AR verbs. We're going to use these same endings with all the verbs. So that's pretty cool. So you're going to definitely want this in your notes. Nudge, nudge, hint, hint. Okay? So these are our endings. Now these endings are organized in a way that looks exactly like your other T charts. So you'll notice that this is the ending for that bottom box for él, ella, or usted. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close that, and we'll go back to our video. So again, these are our endings. We know that ella is in this box. That's the ending that goes with her. So what we're going to do is add that ending to the stem. So we have habl plus a is habla. Ella habla. And that's it. So now you know how to conjugate any verb. If you need to go back, what you can do is, so if you're like, well, I don't know how to conjugate for yo. Well, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take the verb. Let's say it is prestar. You're going to remove the AR. So you're going to end up with P-R-E-S-T. You're going to figure out who's verbing, in this case, yo. And I'm going to say yo. I'm going to take my stem, prest, and I'm going to put O on the end. Yo presto atención. I pay attention. Okay? We'll practice more in class. I'd like you to see if you can't come up with a couple of your own sentences, though. All right? Good luck, and I'll see you in class.